Hello and welcome to my another live demonstration on privilege access management, commonly known as PAM, which is delivered through Microsoft Identity Manager solution. And many of you have been watching my videos on different Microsoft security related workloads. I want to thank you all for your valuable input, your help, your appreciation. That keeps me motivated and keep me creating newer and newer videos. For those folks who have not watched my videos yet, just a brief introduction of mine. My name is Atul Raizada. I represent Logicalis here. We are Microsoft US Gold Partner, and we have the privilege to work with Microsoft as well as with hundreds of our customers, ranging from all types and all kinds of customers with their cloud journey, especially with their Microsoft cloud journey. With that small introduction, let's dive into privilege access management. And as I always do that, first try to establish the reason and the problem that we are trying to solve, and then we get into the demonstration. So what is privilege access management? In order to understand the privilege access management, first we need to talk about privilege identities. And many of you are already familiar with that privilege identities could be named as domain admins, enterprise admins, and schema admins, certain administrators on certain mission critical applications. And often these identities are compromised, and we need to see that how best we can prevent organization from these kind of smears, these kind of attacks. All of us are very familiar of what happens in the industry and what's happening in this industry. I'm not here to scare anybody. I'm not here to say, hey, this is really sky is falling. But the fact of the matter is that we are at the risk, or organizations are at the risk because of the activity that is happening by these hackers in our industry, and we cannot just keep our eyes closed, right? So that's the purpose of this demonstration here. And before I actually go into this solution, we just need to see that what has Microsoft done so far in helping organizations to be a little bit more secure and take a little bit relief, say, hey, we have tried to do the best that we can to prevent and to protect our organizations. There is no silver bullet here that could say, hey, by taking these 5 or 10 or 15 actions, an organization can be safer. But once we know what we are doing, why we are doing, and what the implication is, we would feel safer. And that's what is sure, and we would prevent possible attacks that may happen without the help of these technologies, right? So with that, let's look into, I have tried to simplify it with a little bit of animation here to make sure that the flow is understood, right? Because before we get to the PAM, we need to see what other activities are important. So what actually happens, as I said, in the space of PAM or privileged identities, generally most of the time these attacks starts from a phishing email, right? So we'll start our discussion from that point. So let's see. So we have a sender, right? And this sender is sending an email to one of your users in Office 365 or Exchange Online. We all know that. Then what happens is that EOP is your first interface, which Exchange Online Protection, for those who have not heard about it. This is considered it as an SMTP gateway that you have been using in your organization if you have on-prem solutions, which you might have it. And EOP would provide you protection from viruses and spams, and you can blacklist senders and whitelist senders and pass through all very intriguing stuff there. I strongly recommend that when you deploy that, please make sure that you follow the industry best practices for the EOP deployment and you configure it right, because many times customer would come back and say, hey, EOP is not delivering what they were expecting to. And when you actually dive into, the problem was not EOP, problem was the actual configuration of EOP, because Microsoft can provide you a tool, but if you don't use it, then you cannot blame anybody, right? That's my point. So please make sure there are tons of documentation and articles available on EOP. I'm not going to go and talk about that in today's session because we need to stay focused on PAM. With that, what happens is that if your organization has decided to use Exchange Online ATP, then the ATP comes in, ATP engine comes in between, right? And ATP engine, if it looks at an attachment, it would forward that attachment to the what you call as a detonation chamber, which is a sandbox. And if it finds executables or registry call or any kind of a privilege elevation in that attachment, that is what it is being scanned in that detonation chamber. And if it finds it unsafe, it deletes it. If it finds it safe and there are only some links that it needs to rewrite, it would rewrite those links and will deliver the attachment back to the user. At the same time, if an email body has got some malicious links, right, then it would also rewrite those links and finally will deliver it to Exchange Online, right? Now, by the way, I have a very interesting video that I have created on phishing emails and ADP. I strongly recommend you to watch it. You will find it at my channel. You will find it in my links. I strongly recommend you to watch it. Reason being because you would see in my video, probably only video, where I would send a malicious email and a malicious attachment with a phishing content, right? That is phishing. And you will see how does that actually reflect, or how does ATP engine tackles it. So you would see the confidence level would go up once you watch the demo. I'm 100% sure about it. So please do watch that video. But if your organization has not decided to use ATP, then EOP would deliver the mail to Exchange Online mailbox and user receives it, right? That's a very simplified, straightforward scenario. Why it is more important? Because when we talk to the PAM, if your organization is using ATP, then the chances of the privilege identity being compromised is significantly minimized. So when you combine these two solutions together, ATP, Exchange Online ATP and PAM, it makes more sense, right? That's why I wanted to present you a holistic solution, not just bits and pieces. And that is what is my objective here, to simplify it, to give you a complete solution, so that you can actually use it and you just do not keep it in books or just do not keep in your brains, and you are able to take the advantage of all these technologies realistically in your organization or in your partner organization. With that, we already know that Azure Active Directory plays a significant role in Microsoft Cloud, whether it is Office 365 or other cloud services that Microsoft offers to you. And that also brings interesting offering in terms of security. So many of you are familiar with enterprise mobility plus security. I'm not going to go and do a lecture on enterprise mobility plus security today, but it is interesting to see, at least at a high level, that what can it do for your organization, right? So Intune is an endpoint management solution which can help you and your organizations to manage the devices, whether it is Windows 7, Windows 8, 10, laptop, desktops, Windows phones, iPhone, Android, iPad, right? You name it. Android tablets, whatever the case may be. Endpoint protection, updates, application deployment, management, conditional access policy, conditional access and policy-driven management, right? Extremely powerful solution, guys. Do not undermine the importance and the power of Intune. That's all I would say at this point in this demonstration. If time permits me, I would create another demonstration just on Intune itself, and we'll see when I can do that, right? With that, Enterprise Mobility Suite is also offering Azure Active Directory Premium. Again, these are the feature sets that you might want to look at it, because Azure AD Premium provides you the multi-factor authentication, and that is conditional Azure access, MFA for Microsoft Cloud services like Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, Yammer, and whatnot, and MFA for Azure B2B, MFA for 2900 plus software as a service that is being delivered as a single sign-on solution from Azure, right? Extremely powerful solution. MFA for on-prem remote desktop servers or terminal servers, MFA for IaaS-based servers. So its scope is unlimited here, and you will see that I already have a live demonstration on MFA. If you have not watched it, I strongly recommend you to please watch that demonstration. Very interesting. I have got a lot of appreciation on that MFA video, and please do watch it if you have not watched it. At the same time, Azure AD Premium would also offer you the self-service portal, and that would allow your users to reset their password, unlock their account, right? Change password, all good stuff, change even the group membership if you like to. So that's a self-service portal. Again, I'm not doing that demonstration today. And that is Azure AD Premium. Then comes Azure IPS as a part of Enterprise Mobility Plus Security, which uses a acronym called as a CLP, Classify, Label, and Protect. I am so impressed with this solution that I can't even mention it here enough, right? And the protection is provided through Azure RMS. Many of you are familiar with Azure RMS, which is rights management services that you use for email encryption and whatnot. But when you do Azure IPS, you use CLP feature. Oh my God, that is just an incredible solution. And if time permit, I'll get you another video on Azure IPS alone to show you the capabilities of Azure IPS, right? Again, we're not doing it today. Then comes Azure ATP, which is in the preview mode of today. I have a video ready. I can assure you that you might not have seen a video like that before, because for the first time in this video, I'm demonstrating a live attack on your Active Directory. Extremely rare that you will see an attack being done on your Azure Active Directory. It's terrifying, it's shocking, it's unbelievable. I'm an Active Directory consultant over 18 years now. And when I did that demonstration, I was actually trembling, but because the impact of that is that with the phishing email, your Active Directory becomes so vulnerable and it is so easy to hack it that it is beyond description. Must watch video. I'm waiting for some clarity or clearing from Microsoft, because it's in a preview mode and I cannot publish it unless Microsoft gives me a green signal to do that. And there is a question of NDA. So once it is sorted out, I hope it will be done in the first week of January. I'll be posting that video as well. And then we all know AD Connect, right? AD Connect is being used between Azure Active Directory and On-Prem Active Directory to synchronize identities. And now come our solution, where the On-Prem Active Directory solution. So many of us are familiar with PKI, the certificates, the labs, the GIA, the Just Enough Administration. This might be new to some of us, but it is again extremely powerful technology. I would be creating another separate demonstration on GIA, because if I do this in one demonstration, it would be too big. And then the PAM, which is Privilege Access Management, that we are doing today, followed by Privilege Access Workstation. I'm not doing that today, but I plan to do another video on Privilege Access Workstation as well, right? With that, oh, I forgot one thing. See, that's the idea of animation. The Azure Security Center, right? Again, oh my God, this is so powerful and so vast that is just beyond description, right? And I'm not going to talk about Azure Security Center today. Again, in future, maybe I would come with another video on Azure Security Center itself. Now, what are the issues that PAM can solve for you or your organization? It can take care of the vulnerabilities with these privileged identities, right? Unauthorized privilege escalation, pass the hash, pass the ticket, spear phishing. This is exactly my demo that I just mentioned to you on Azure ATP will show you. And I swear to God, this is scary, right? Kerberos compromises and other attacks. So this is what we do. And before I go into the live demonstration, I just want to mention that what is this technology? What are we trying to do? So in this technology, we are trying to avoid using privileged identities in your production Active Directory. So domain admin, enterprise admin, schema admin, other administrators that are being used for different services can be managed from another Active Directory for us. So keep in mind, the identities that would be used to do these tasks, which normally you would use domain admin or enterprise admin, no longer required. Rather, you would use an identity from another trusted Active Directory forest or trusted Active Directory MIM server. and those identities have zero privileges in your production Active Directory. And if a hacker gets a hand, by the way, on those, they can't do anything because those identities do not belong to your production Active Directory at all, right? And that is the advantage of using PAM. On top of it, this follows Microsoft three-letter acronym JIA, just in time administration. So it is on demand kind of a thing, right? So if you are an OU administrator and you need access to that OU and you need to do some work, you would go into the privilege or in a Bastion Active Directory forest with your identity. You will request, hey, I need access to do this work for an hour, and there would be an approval process. It could be approved or rejected. Once you're approved, you're given a session for a limited time. In my demonstration, that time is 1 hour. After 1 hour, your session is automatically terminated. Throughout this session, you never use any production identity. Forget about privilege identity. You even are not using any production corporate Active Directory accounts. You're using accounts from another forest, right? And that is the beauty. And that forest could be completely locked down. The workstation that you are working from could be a privilege access workstation. And that is exactly what we are going to show in our live demonstration today, right? Now, needless to say that when you do this, you need to really do prepare your environment appropriately. When I say prepare your environment, you need to design your delegation model here, because the delegation model would define the proper use of your privilege access management, right? So let's say I have an OU where I need to give certain folks the rights. I would need to go and do the OU delegation. I need to manage Active Directory sites and services. I need to do the delegation. I need to do a DNS. I need to do the delegation. So the rights and delegations are very, very important. So once you do in the production, then you can remove, once the Pam roles are created, then you can remove that identity from those groups. And we'll show you exactly what I mean here, because by just talking, it will not make sense, right? With that, let's get into the demo itself. All right, so here we are. So I have this VM. This is running on my Hyper-V server in my lab. I have this machine called as AZLGDC02. And if you look at this domain, this is az.local Active Directory domain, and this is a single domain forest. Consider this as a production Active Directory, right? This is where we're gonna minimize the uses of privilege identity, right? And we'll come back here in momentarily. That's my production Active Directory domain, Active Directory forest. Then I have another machine here. This is a 2000, the production Active Directory is 2012 R2. And then I have got this new Active Directory forest created for doing the PAM as a Bastion Active Directory, which is called as priv.local. So what I was mentioning earlier, that we would have identities being used from priv.local to manage and do the operations inside az.local Active Directory. That means we are not using any identities in az.local to do the regular work that we used to do. Rather, we would use an identity in the priv.local that has zero rights in priv.local, as well as that identity has, or the corresponding identity in production also has zero rights there too, right? And that is the demonstration that we are working on, right? So in order to accomplish that, we have created a Microsoft Identity Management 2016 server here, which is right here. That is the MIM server, which is providing all these functionality here. Now, this MIM16 is joined to the priv domain. It is not part of your production Active Directory. So this stays in the Bastion Active Directory forest, right? We'll come back here momentarily. And that is our environment. In addition to that, I have this machine, which is called the priv workstation, which is actually inside the priv domain. So this workstation is not part of your production Active Directory, right? Let me just make sure that I can show you this before we go any further. So this is the machine, or I should show here, right? This is in priv.local, if you guys see here, right? So just want to make sure that you all are. Now we would do our operations from this admin workstation. I have also installed the RSET, the remote server administration tool on this machine, so that we can actually see everything that we want to do, right? So with that, what will happen here is that I have also minimized that the users, only the required users can open Active Directory users and computer snap-in, and only the required users can open the Active Directory sites and services snap-in, right? So I'll show you first the existing scenario, then we will create one with you so that you understand that the process is not very difficult, right? So here we go. So what we have here is that I created the OU called as the O365, which has got a couple of users here, right? And what happens here is, in this I delegated the rights to a group called as, I think, O365 admin, right? I did that, and we will do it together once I show you this first portion here, right? So there should be right here. This is the group that no, not this one, there's this one here, O365 admin. So this group has been given the rights to this particular OU as a delegated rights. And if I go back to O365 admin group here, so this is the user that I'm using here. I'm going to show you in a second. Let me make sure that it's not the member of O365. I'm going to remove it, guys, in front of you here, right? Okay, so he is no longer the member of that group which has the privilege on this box. Now what we have done here inside the privilege priv.dc domain, if you see, go back here, you will see here there is an identity that we created called as a priv.o365n, which is a corresponding identity to O365n. Now guys, I also want to mention that this is not a rocket science, right? So we are still using SID histories here. We are still using Kerberos to control the session, right? By default, the Kerberos TGT ticket is 10 hours, 600 seconds. Now, for this particular project, we have modified it to 60 seconds or 1 hour, right? That's how the session is being controlled. The SID histories are being controlled. So through the PowerShell command, we created this identity here, priv.o365.n, right? This is in our environment in the priv.local domain. I am logged here. Let's see. I'm logged here as priv.o365n, right? This is an identity in priv.local. So let's launch the Active Directory users and computer snap-in, and he should be able to do that. And I have already connected to the production Active Directory. If you see here, az.local. But I expect here that if he tries to do anything here right now, he doesn't have any rights. He cannot create anything, he cannot delete, he cannot move. He doesn't have the rights to do anything in this OU as of now, right? If I try to create a new user, I don't even have an option to create a new user. So that's the right that I gave him. Right now, he doesn't have any privileges. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to try to get him the rights. Let me close this. And that's the MIM portal that he is going to log into. And that's the privilege access management application sample portal which we are running here. Activate. I think it's not taking it. So I have activated this successfully now. If you see here on this one, I have extended it for 1 hour, right? Expiration time you see here, right here. And if I go back into my Active Directory users and computers snap in, then I should be able to create a new user now, right? You see here, new, and I can create users or whatever, right? So let's create a new user for the sake. And here you go. So throughout this process, we had let this user use the ID from the priv domain without using any identity in production Active Directory, and were able to complete the task, right? We were able to complete and create a user without any problem, right? And at the same time, if I go back here on that O365, refresh it, you have this user. Obviously this is no brainer, right? So we are already connected to that domain controller. So guys, this is very straightforward, but think about it, delegation is the key here. Now at the same time, I also want to show you that if he tries to go to Active Directory sites and services, I guess he would be denied access. See, the snap-in is not even allowed. Forget about doing anything. We are not allowing. That is what I am controlling through the group policies. Many of you are familiar with that you control snap-in. So he cannot even launch snap-ins here. But I have got another account that I want to show you now. And that account, if I remember, is called as AZ Rep Admin, right? This is the account which has rights to manage Active Directory sites and services, right? So, okay. Here you go, Rep Admin. Where is my private, right? This is the user account, private.rep admin. Okay. So I have not touched this lab for quite a while, right? So please bear with me if it does not work for me. So I'm going to log out here. Please bear with me. My lab, this particular Hyper-V server is little low on resources, right? So if he goes to Active Directory sites and services, right, and he is already connected to the az.local. I just did it for the demo purposes already, right? If he goes here, I have got site because I have got a domain controller in Azure as infrastructure as a service. I also have domain controllers here on-prem, right? So if I try to do something here, let's say I try to create a new subnet here, right? I don't have option because I don't have rights, right? This particular user has no rights as of now, because now the just-in-time administration would kick in if we go and we request right? He is logged on to the portal, and his role is come on, get out. So the role is he can activate it, and we are doing it for 1 hour. If you are doing for approval process, which I have not done in my demo here, but you can type here the justification or reasoning here and timeout hours and you know all good stuff, and then approval process would kick in, and you just submit it, right? Request submitted successfully, and if I refresh it, right, I can deactivate it, but let me close and reopen the Active Directory sites and services now. Can I create a new subnet? Of course I can. Because without using the privilege identity in production Active Directory, I am able to use an identity in my private domain, and I can do the job or work that I want to do for a specific period of time. So what I have proven so far, folks, here is, first of all, just in time administration. This is not a session that is applicable for hours, right? It is only available for 1 hour. We're not using any production ID here. We are using an identity inside a separate Active Directory forest, and the users can do their regular job without any problem as long as you have done the right delegation here. So prepare your environment, and then on top of it you have got monitoring capabilities and auditing capabilities too. So plus don't mistake, you can also enable MFA, the multi-factor authentication, along with this as well. So now if you look into the totality of the solution, folks, here you are able to protect, look, go back into that flow diagram that I have shown you in the slide deck, right? And think about it, that you're protecting it at the perimeter layer with ATP and EOP, minimizing those phishing attacks right there. You have got full enterprise mobility plus security helping you. Then comes on-prem, where Azure ATP is helping and monitoring you to prevent attacks. And then comes the PAM, PAW, GIA, all other interesting technologies. And that makes my point stronger, that Microsoft is heavily investing into all these security initiatives, because many times we think that, hey, Microsoft is not a big niche player in the security space. Unfortunately, that is not true, right? A significant investment has been made by Microsoft in these technologies, and the result is in front of you, right? Now, we have seen it. Let's see that how do we actually accomplish it, right? So I don't know how much time I have, but let me show you. It's not that difficult at all. So we have got a PAM test OU here. Let's just create a user and a group and delegate rights, and then we will do this task together, right, as I promised you. So I'm going to create a new user, folks, call as Pam admin. Let's put tst01 pam.tst01. Good. I'm going to create a security group here. Okay. And I'm going to add this user into this group temporarily. All right, very straightforward. Let's do the delegation quickly. And our OU here is PAM test, PAM demo. I don't remember. Okay, let's do PAM test here. Pam admin. Okay, next. Custom task. Next. I'm not going to be too fancy here. I'm going to be very generic in this process here. But once you understand that, you can customize the task and delegate. That's what I said. Delegation is key here to make it work efficiently. So I have done this work here, pam.test. Now we need to create these identities inside the priv domain so that we can do and create a Pam role as well, right? We call it a Pam role. So let's do this here. We are going to go to our MIM server. And here we're going to elevate the privileges. So new Pam user, source domain, source account name is, I think we call it a pam.tst01. I think that's what we did, right? Pam.tst01. Okay, that's our source account name. So what we are saying here, new Pam user source domain, which is az.local, which is our production active directory, source account name pmtst01. I'm creating a password for this user. Don't look at this password. Just kidding. And then we are creating a corresponding identity inside the priv domain. I'm going to call it as priv dot what is that, pam and tst01, right? And then we're going to enable this identity as well. Very simple PowerShell command. pamtst01, right? So this command is ready to be executed, and it would create a corresponding identity. It would bring the SID history, folks, of that account, the account that I have here, pam.tst01, and the SID history would be attached to the pamtst priv.pamtst01. That's what we are doing right now. So if I go here and my PowerShell is up, oh, I messed up. pamtst. See, I misspelled it here. So I'm gonna delete that account and then recreate it. So by default, you have a OU created here, folks, which is, I'm gonna show you in a second. Pam object. And Pam TST, that's the one. It was having difficulty in enabling. I can either do that here, priv.pamtst01. I'm going to delete it here. pamtest01. Just a second. So folks, if you look at the screen now, I created that account here called as priv.pam001. I had some initial hiccups there because I probably did not log off and log on this MIM server for quite some time. And that's where this is. So I just executed that command, priv.pam001. So I hope that this should show up in my Active Directory here in the priv.local. And here you go. So I have that account. Now we need to create a Pam role where we would create the group that we have created, that is the Pam admin group. So we'll create corresponding group there in our Pam, which would be the Pam role, right? So going back to the MIM account and going back here, this is the one that we use, right? Pam001. Get credentials, Azure administrator, corp. This is not corp. This is AZ for this domain, PG Pam group. Source group name is, remember the source group that we created, folks, was Pam admin. If you look at the second screen here, Pam admin, the one that we created in the production Active Directory, that's what we're going to use. Source Pam admin, source domain, that's a domain controller. Credentials, we're going to get the credentials. New Pam role, display name, and that's the display role that we need to create here, is called as a Pam admin 2. Right, you can name anything that you like, but and then it would have the candidates, which is this SJ here. That's the account that we already created. So get credentials, Pam admin. Okay, hopefully this should go fine. Asking me for the credentials for my production Active Directory. And it should create a Pam role for me momentarily. So folks, the command completed. I created the role here. If I go here and say get, I can type here, get Pam role, I should be able to see that. I have got several roles, but I should have just queried that right here. Right, so if you really look here, this is what we did. Right, you have all the SID and SID histories that it brought it over. Pam 00, this is the group. Now I also did one more thing here. So if I go back here into the portal, and if I say here my security group, which is my actually Pam roles here, here you go. So my role is here, right? And shadow group for Pam admin for domain AZ local, right? That's exactly what we wanted to accomplish. Now in this scenario, I'm trying one more new test here. I created a folder here, Pam test, and I gave the rights here. So if it advanced sharing, and the permissions is share level full permissions here, but on the security and TFS permissions, I removed everything and only this group has the right. So we'll see whether that also works after we get the privilege escalation on the priv.local side, right? So that's our next task. So what I'm going to do now here is from this, I'm going to remove this group, the user, out of this group so that we don't use it anymore. So I'm going to remove Pam001. So he has no rights here. Even this account has no rights, and obviously the account that we have here created in this Active Directory has no rights, right? So if I go back privacy here, this account also has no rights. I'm going to log on to the workstation, my privilege access workstation, PAW, with this account, priv.pam001, and it's going to take a while for me to get the profile created. So I'm going to pause it and come back in a few seconds, right? So bear with me. All right, so I have been able to log on successfully on this workstation. So profile is created, and just to show you that I'm logged on here with this Pam001 account, priv.pam001, right, and it's logging on to the priv domain controller, privdc, right? Okay, so let's try to see whether we can get the folder first, and I think we would be denied access on that folder because we don't have rights here. So we'll see. Okay, now we can go and try to run Active Directory. he's connecting to the local Active Directory. I'm going to change it to the production Active Directory. Save as a future. And as of now, he should not have write on the PAM test. I think that's what the OU that we use, right? I will remember that. And he should not have any rights here, right? He doesn't have any rights. Now, let me make sure that that's the OU we are using. Security. PAM admin, okay. That's the PAM test. Perfect. Okay, now we're going to request and elevate our privileges just in time administration. I'm going to go to the portal. Here you go, and you just need to go to the activation. And if we can now activate, probably it was not liking the NetBIOS name. I needed to put the fully qualified domain name in the URL. You just activate it, submit, and request submitted successfully. Now you can see here it's going to go up to 2045, which is 8:45 according to my time here. And if let's try to do the first test. Don't know whether it will work or not, but we'll see. Still not working with that. So let's see the Active Directory, close it. And now I can create my users. I have the rights here. And that's what I wanted to show you folks here. I hope this was helpful. This explains you what PAM is. Once again, it allows you to minimize the uses of your privileged identities in your production Active Directory. Rather, you operate it from a different trusted Active Directory forest or trusted Active Directory PAM machine, where you would have the identities, corresponding identities created there. The SID history would be brought over. The users would not have rights either in either forest or either domain, neither on the production nor on the priv domain, and they can be allowed sessions for about an hour or two. They can have an change control process there or approval process there, and they can be audited and monitored as well. That's pretty much I wanted to talk about today. I hope this was helpful. At least it shows you what the capabilities of PAM are, and you can always combine it with multi-factor authentication. So if you look into the totality and holistically the whole solution, which I demonstrated you in the earlier part of my conversation, probably it will make more sense to you. Again, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for your valuable time. We'll talk again in our next demo. Have a rest of your best of your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.